Good morning, children.
Morning, ma'am.
We started with the post-fertilization events last class, which are the three main post-fertilization events. Sania,
Development of endosperm and embryo,
Hmm,
then ovule into seed and
hmm,
ovary into seed.
very good. So the embryo and endosperm development, formation of seeds from ovule and fruits from ovary. So these are the three main post-fertilization events. So we learn about the formation of seed from ovule today. Last class we discussed about endosperm and embryo development. Hope you have finished revising the topics covered so far. As I told you, you will be having a class test this week. So keep on revising. If some portions are pending, so compensate for all that. All the pending topics you cover it, because you will be getting a short-term notice, because I might tell the next day you have the test. Whenever we are completing, the day we are completing, the next day you will have the test. So revise whatever topics we have covered, so it won't be a burden on the previous day of the test. Formation of seed from ovule. And as a seed is getting matured, so let's learn about the formation of seed from ovule. Seed is a fertilized ovule. So once fertilization has taken place, the ovule will change into seed and ovary becomes a fruit. So you can say it is the seed is the fertilized ovule. It's a fertilized ovule and it is found inside fruits, formed inside the fruits. Ovule is found inside the fruits and seed is developed from this fertilized ovule. It's the final product of sexual reproduction. So once sexual reproduction is completed, this is the final product form. And the seeds, from the seeds a new plant can be raised. So seed is the final product of sexual reproduction. So the intention behind carrying out sexual reproduction in plants is to form seeds which can raise the next generation. It consists of seed coats, cotyledons, and an embryo axis. So already the parts of an embryo we had discussed. So the different parts of a seed include seed coat, two coats, testa, tegmen. You don't have to learn the details. I think +1 textbook it is explained. Seed coats are present, then cotyledons, and the number of cotyledons can differ as we discussed in the case of monocots and dicots. Then an embryo axis. So there'll be an embryonal axis, seed coats and cotyledons. Cotyledons are simple. They'll be thick and they'll be swollen because of the food storage in them. So food is stored in the cotyledons. So cotyledons are simple, thick and swollen with food. Example, they have given legumes, all the pulses. So there you can find the cotyledons are swollen, thick, and there is storage of food inside them. I'll repeat once again. Seed is a fertilized ovule which is formed inside the fruits, and it's the final product of sexual reproduction. The different parts of a seed include seed coats. It has got two layers, testa and tegmen, then cotyledons and an embryonal axis. Cotyledons are simple, generally thick, and due to the storage of food, they get swollen. There are two types of seeds. So mature seeds, you can categorize them into two based on the presence of endosperm. So based on the presence of endosperm, you can categorize mature seeds into two: non-albuminous and albuminous seeds. Non-albuminous seeds means they have no residual endosperm as it is completely consumed during the embryo development. So you have already learned about double fertilization, and you know, as a result of double fertilization, endosperm and the zygote is being formed. Zygote will develop into embryo, whereas the endosperm consists of stored food which will help in nourishing the growing embryo. And in some of the seeds, the endosperm present will be completely used up during the development of the embryo. So no residue of the endosperm will be left. So in such case, such seeds you call as non-albuminous seeds. They have no residual endosperm and it will be completely consumed during the development of embryo. Example, pea, groundnut, beans, etc. are non-albuminous. At the same time, there are albuminous seeds. So even though endosperm is being used up for the nourishment of the growing embryo, some portion will be left behind. So in the picture you can see, in the first picture you cannot find any endosperm present, whereas in the second figure you can find, it's an example for a second one is an example for an albuminous seed, and you can find the presence of endosperm in it. So some endosperm will be left behind. It's not completely used up. Such seeds you can call as albuminous seeds. And examples, wheat, maize, barley, castor, coconut, sunflower. These are some examples. You should know all the examples given in the textbook. Don't just learn one or two, because sometimes they will give which among the following is a non-albuminous seed. Which among the following is an albuminous seed? So you should be thorough with all the, familiar with all the examples. Only then you can make out. Just learning one or two examples, that is not enough, because when if they can even ask you to classify the following seeds into albuminous and non-albuminous. So do learn all the examples. So once again I'll repeat, matured seeds can be categorized into two types based on the presence of endosperm: albuminous and non-albuminous. Non-albuminous seeds means there won't be any endosperm left behind, or there won't be any residual endosperm. Why? Endosperm had been formed. It was formed, but it is completely utilized for the development of the embryo. So nothing is left behind. So in such a case, you call it as non-albuminous seeds. Example, peas, groundnut, beans, etc. And on the other hand, we have seeds where endosperm is not completely used up. Definitely, it had been used for the development of the embryo, but some will be left behind. So, such seeds where residual endosperm is present, you call it as albuminous seed. Example, maize, barley, wheat, castor, coconut, sunflower, etc. Okay, children? Yes?
Yes,
Nia,
ma'am.
Punya, video is off.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, next is in some seeds. Example, black pepper. Remnants of nucellus are also persistent. Where did we learn about nucellus, children? What is special about nucellus? Where did we discuss about this? Huh? Anybody is remembering?
Mass within the integuments.
Ah, so there, what was the role of nucellus? From the nucellus present in the micropylar region, one of the cell will get differentiated and form
Megaspore mother cell.
megaspore mother cell. Megaspore mother cell will undergo meiotic division, form 4 megaspores. 3 will degenerate and the functional one will form
Female gametophyte.
female gametophyte, or the embryo sac. So you have already learned about nucellus and its function. So in some seeds, actually, when development proceeds, that nucellus will disappear, but in some of them, some amount of nucellus also persists. So in the previous slide, we discussed about the persistence of endosperm, but in certain seeds, the nucellus, the remnants of nucellus are also present, and that is known as perisperm. So for 1 mark, it can be asked, what is meant by perisperm? So perisperm is the remnants of nucellus present in certain seeds like beet or black pepper. So in pepper, in black pepper, you can find remnants of nucellus or some cells of nucellus will be persistent, and those cells we call as perisperm. Integuments of ovule. So when we discussed about the structure of an ovule, we had learned about integuments, outer integument, inner integument, etc. And what happens to these integuments? So when the seed formation, or when the seed formation, as the seed formation proceeds, the integuments will become hard and they develop into seed coats. Okay, they develop into seed coats, and it will be having a small pore. So on the seed, you can find a small minute opening. You call it as micropyle. If you check some gram seeds, you can clearly see chana dal or not dal, the what to say, any of the legumes, Bengal gram, green gram, anything if you check, you can find a small opening. Chana also, if you take and check, you can find a small opening near that notch. And that small opening, you call it as micropyle. And this opening is meant for the entry of oxygen, for the exchange of oxygen and water, because seeds need to respire and they need to absorb water. When you soak them in water, it can be absorbed through different parts, but at the same time, this micropyle also serves as the main region through where the gases as well as water can enter into the seed for the purpose of germination. If they need to germinate, they should absorb water. They need oxygen because they need to respire. So that entry of these substances is taking place through micropyle. I'll repeat it once again. Perisperm is the persist or remnants of nucellus, which is which are found in certain seeds like black pepper. And the second point, what we discussed is integuments. As the seed develops or the seed formation takes place, the integuments covering the ovule will get converted to seed coat, and it will be provided with a small opening known as micropyle, and it is through the micropyle that the oxygen and water enters for the process of germination. So entry of oxygen and gases will take place through this micropyle. As the seeds are getting matured, the water content will get reduced. So as and when the seeds are getting matured, the water content will gradually decline. It keeps on getting, the water content keeps on getting reduced. And finally, it becomes dry. So 10 to 15 percentage moisture by mass will be, so only that will remain. So rest will be highly reduced. That means it becomes dry by the, that is why since the water content is less, only we are able to store them for a longer time. If the moisture content is more, what will happen is it will get easily spoiled. These seeds you can store it. So you might have seen we stock all these different pulses in our house, and whenever we need, we can even germinate them and produce plants also, or else it will remain as such, and for a long time, maybe it will remain like that for years if you maintain, if you take care of it properly. Otherwise some insects and all can spoil, but if you take care of that, take care of those pests and all, or those insects, these seeds will remain like that for years. And whenever we need to raise a plant from that, you give them appropriate condition, soak them, not soaking them, just giving them appropriate moisture, a wet cotton, you can spread them on wet cotton, and it will start germinating within a few days. So you might have seen that whenever you're in lower classes, your teacher might have asked you to produce some seedlings using the grams at home, even mustard or any seeds at home. You might have done also, maybe in fourth standard or fifth standard, you might have germinated few seeds and carried to school. Am I right? You all might have done. I have done in my LP classes. You haven't done, children? No.
We have done.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So that means whenever you give them, even though they can remain dry like that for years, whenever we need it, give them the appropriate conditions, they'll start germinating. So as the seed matures, the water content becomes highly reduced and becomes dry. The general metabolic activity of the embryo will slow down and the embryo may enter a state of inactivity. So as such, all the activities will slow down and the embryo inside will enter into a stage of inactivity or dormancy, because there the conditions are not favorable. So it will enter into an inactive stage. But when it lands on, or when they are provided with appropriate conditions, they'll be able to germinate, provided it's not spoiled by some insects or any other organism. If favorable conditions are available, sufficient moisture, oxygen, and suitable temperature, they'll start to germinate. So seed, as I told you, um, as the seed development proceeds, the water content will get reduced, and that is why we are able to store it for a longer time. And during this time, the metabolic activity of the embryo will slow down and they will enter into a stage of inactivity. Inside the seed, that embryo is there. That is why when suitable conditions are provided, they are able to germinate and form a new plant. But inside the seed, the embryo will enter into a state of inactivity. All the metabolic activities slow down, and when they get suitable conditions like temperature, water, moisture, they'll start germinating. Now, what are the advantages of seeds? So seeds are having several advantages. So let's see how they are useful to human beings. Since pollination and fertilization are independent of water, seed formation is more dependable. So pollination and fertilization, in majority of the cases, you have learned in pteridophytes, bryophytes and all, they need water to carry out for the transport of male gametes and to bring about fertilization. But in angiosperms, in flowering plants, pollination and fertilization, they are independent of water. Maybe in some of the plants, maybe water can be a pollinating agent, but in majority of them, these are independent of water. Water is not necessary to carry out pollination and fertilization. So seed formation is more dependable. So since there is no limitation in pollination and fertilization, or they don't need the presence of water, seed formation is more dependable. So seed formation also is not dependent on water in that case, because for pollination, for fertilization, no need of water, and fertilization will result in the formation of seed. So when compared to other methods, seed formation is more dependable as it doesn't require the presence of water. Then they have better adaptive strategies for dispersal to new habitats and help the species to colonize in other areas. This you might have learned in maybe, I think, seventh standard. I'm not very sure, sixth or seventh. You might have learned about the agents of seed dispersal and the adaptations of seeds in dispersal. Adaptations in the sense that some of them might have wind as a pollinating agent, animals as a pollinating agent. To suit them, they have different adaptations. Like some of them have wings, some are very lightweight, some of them have hairy structures. So all these will enable. So some of the seeds, they have wing-like structures, feathery structures, a lightweight, hooks are present for some seeds because they can easily cling to the body of animals so that animals will carry to some other place. Okay, so seeds, different seeds have different adaptations to carry out dispersal to new habitats. And once these seeds reach other habitat, they'll colonize there also. Suppose a particular plant is over one region, in a particular region, a plant is there, the seeds produced, once it is dispersed, I told there are different pollinating agents, wind, water, animals. So with the help of these agents, the seeds can be carried to faraway places, and then once these seeds land there, they will germinate over there and they can colonize that particular area. So they have better adaptive strategies to carry out dispersal to new habitats, and this will help the species to colonize in other areas. Then seeds are food reserves, or they contain food reserves. They have stored food. So young seedlings are nourished until they are capable of photosynthesis. So when the seed is getting germinated, so until the seedling, it has to come out, it has to produce the leaves which are green in color, then only they can carry out photosynthesis. So long as it is not capable of carrying out all these, with the help of the food stored in the seed, they can survive. So seeds contain food reserves. This enable the seedlings to survive until they are capable of carrying out photosynthesis. So they can depend on, the embryo is getting nourishment, and the embryo will emerge out as a seedling, and the seedling also will get nourishment till they develop properly to carry out photosynthesis. So once they start producing green leaves and all, they can carry out photosynthesis on its own. So till then, with the help of the stored food present in the seed, they can carry out photosynthesis. So that was a third advantage. Moving on to the next one, fourth one, the hard seed coat. So seeds are provided with a seed coat. Okay. The hard seed coat protects the young embryo. So seed is provided with a hard coat which will protect the young embryo. Okay. And seeds are having two coverings. So two seed coats are there. Testa is the outer seed coat. Tegmen is the inner coat. Testa and tegmen. In 11th standard textbook, it's mentioned testa, outer coat, tegmen, inner coat. The hard seed coat helps in protecting the young embryo, because within the seed, the embryo is present. So it is with the help of this seed coat that the embryo is protected. Then fifth point, being products of sexual reproduction. You know that it's due to sexual reproduction, or as a result of sexual reproduction or fertilization, seeds are formed. So they generate new genetic combinations leading to variations. So when compared to asexual reproduction, you have learned in class 10 also the different advantages sexual reproduction has got, because in asexual reproduction only a single parent is involved, so limited variations will be there. Generally they will be similar to their parents, because single parent is involved, no fusion of gametes, no recombination of characters. But seeds are formed as a result of fertilization or sexual reproduction, where the two different gametes, male and female gametes, are being combined. So this will help in combining the characters, different characters, and we get new combination of characters, and definitely it will lead to variations. So that is another advantage. And sixth, or the last one, dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds are crucial for the storage of seeds. It can be used as food throughout the year and also to raise crop in the next season. And you know that the seeds will get dry. As development proceeds, the moisture content becomes reduced. It keeps on reducing, and finally it becomes 10 to 15% of its mass. So the moisture content is highly reduced, and that is very, very important, enabling it to be stored for a longer time. And these seeds remain inside the seeds. The embryo is remaining in a stage of dormancy. All the metabolic activities will be suspended until they get a proper favorable conditions like temperature, then water, sunlight. So different factors are there. Until they get all these factors, all the favorable conditions, the embryo inside the seed will remain in a dormant stage, a stage of inactivity. So dehydration and dormancy of the mature seeds are very, very important in helping in the storage of seeds. If this seeds are not dry, we cannot store it for a longer time. It's only because the seeds are dry, the moisture content is very less in them, you can store it for a longer time. And inside them, the embryo is remaining in a dormant stage. So that is also very important. It's because of the presence of the embryo in a dormant stage. Whenever you feel like, whenever you want to raise plants from that, you can provide them appropriate conditions. So this embryo will come out of the dormant stage and start producing a seedling. Okay, so 6 advantages of seeds we discussed. We'll check it once again. The first one, pollination and fertilization are independent of water. So more dependable method of raising plants is by forming seeds. And different seeds have different adaptations to carry out dispersal so that they can colonize other areas. So that particular species will be getting colonized in other areas. They have different strategies to enable better dispersal to new habitats. And third point, seeds contain stored food, and this enable the young seedlings to get nourishment until they are capable of carrying out photosynthesis. Then the young embryo inside the seed is protected by its hard seed coat. Point number 5. Point number 5. As these are formed by sexual reproduction, they promote or they help in the formation of new combination of characters, new genetic combination. This will lead to variations. You know how significant are variations in evolution, in the formation of new species, all that we have learned. So this will promote new genetic combinations resulting or leading to variations. And last point, seeds or the property of the seeds to get dehydrated and remain in a dormant stage are very, very crucial, helping in the storage of seeds. And these seeds can be used as food throughout the year. That is what we are doing. Different pulses we store at home, and as and when we require, we cook them and we use it as food. And if you need to raise plants from those seeds also, you can do it. Provide them all the appropriate conditions, they'll germinate and form a new plant. Okay, is that clear, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So moving on to the next topic, viability of seeds after dispersal. And already we mentioned about the different strategies that the seeds have to facilitate its dispersal to faraway places. And once it happens, that species can colonize in those areas. And now the question is how long they remain viable, how long they remain functional. And that is different for different seeds. Just like we said in the case of pollen grains, the viability of the seeds also vary among seeds. It is different for different seeds. In a few species, the seeds will lose their viability within a few months. So the viability period is only a few months. So after that, they won't be able to germinate. But seeds of many species, they can live for several years. So for some, just a few months. For others, many years. Some seeds can remain alive for hundreds of years. So we mentioned about the seeds remaining viable for few months and several years. But on the other hand, we have some seeds which remain alive, which remain viable for hundreds of years. And some examples are given here. The oldest one is that of lupine, Lupinus arcticus, excavated from Arctic tundra. That is why the species name is Arcticus, because it's excavated from Arctic tundra, and the seed germinated and flowered after an estimated record of 10,000 years of dormancy. So this particular, you can see the plant over there and its seeds, Lupinus seeds and Lupinus arcticus, a flowering plant you can see over there. This particular uh, plant seeds, they were present in the Arctic region, the frozen condition. You know the situation in Arctic tundra. So in those frozen regions, these seeds were lying dormant for around 10,000 years. And then only it was excavated out, but still they were viable and they germinated, they flowered, and you can see the plant over there. So that means there are certain seeds which can remain viable for hundreds of years. So here it is 10,000 years. Another example is of um, a variety of date palm that is 2,000 years old, viable seed. Uh, Date palm, the scientific name is Phoenix dactylifera. It was discovered during the archaeological excavation conducted in King Herod's palace near the Dead Sea. So when archaeological excavations were carried out at King Herod's palace near the Dead Sea, the scientists, they found out the seeds of date palm, and they estimated that this seed was, or these seeds were 2,000 years old. Still they were viable. So that the viability of the seeds can vary greatly. So it is different for different seeds. For some seeds it is just a few months, for others several years, for some hundreds of years. 2,000 years, we have an example, the date palm, Phoenix dactyliferous. It remained viable for almost 2,000 years, until it was discovered during the archaeological excavation. It was remaining dormant, and later, after finding it out, after excavating it out, it could germinate and it could produce the plant. And the other example is that of lupine, and it was excavated from the Arctic tundra. The seeds were remaining in a frozen condition, but they could germinate. The scientists could estimate that these seeds were 10,000 years old. That means it was remaining dormant for almost 10,000 years, but still, once these seeds were excavated out, they were in a viable state. They could germinate and form new plants. Okay. So that was about the viability of the seeds. So what we understand from this is we cannot generalize and say that the seeds remain viable for so and so period. It's different for different seeds. Maybe in the near future, we'll excavate out some other seeds which were lying dormant for several other hundreds of years or several thousands of years. We don't know. Maybe that also can happen. But anyways, understand that the viability period is different for different seeds. So before I proceed further, let me know how far you have understood. We started with the formation of seeds from ovule, and we uh, learned that seeds are formed from fertilized ovule present inside the ovary, and we learned about the classification of seeds based on the presence of endosperm. So who is going to tell me the classification? Children, I'm repeating again. I am uh, asked to, not only me, we all are asked to give the names. It's not a joke. After forwarding the names, don't come up with excuses, because if anybody wants, they can also check the video and find out whose all videos are off, because only when the screen is being shared, your videos won't be visible. Otherwise, the screen can be seen. So how many times we keep on repeating, still you remain the same. And afterwards, don't feel bad when your names are forwarded. We are doing it with a good intention. Don't think that why we are insisting you to turn the videos on. It has got an intention. I told you what is the intention. You are in class 12. We want you to maintain your attention throughout. Because you might think that one period, if you don't listen, what will happen? There'll be a huge difference, children. It's from experience, I'm saying. I don't want this year students also to get affected. So please understand it in the right sense. Understand that all these rules are made for you. Okay, now who is going to tell? Michael, how can you classify seeds based on the presence of endosperm?
Albuminous and non-albuminous seeds.
Albuminous and non-albuminous. Anthony, tell me what are albuminous seeds?
Ma'am, that time it was not there.
A little louder, Anthony.
That time I was not there. I was only from advantages of seeds.
From where? From when you joined?
Advantages of seeds.
Okay. So when that question comes, I'll ask you. Steffi,
They have no residual endosperm.
albuminous seeds.
No, okay. Albuminous seeds. They retain a part
Like
of
to check. It's
endosperm.
very simple, no, Steffi. They
They
retain
retain a part of endosperm.
even after?
Fertilization.
That definitely it is there. Even what for
Embryo
endosperm is the
development.
endosperm actually it is being used for the development of embryo. So even after embryo development, it will retain some amount of endosperm. Give me 2 examples, Steffi.
Wheat, maize.
Okay. So non-albuminous seeds means Meenakshi?
Once the embryo is developed and no residual endosperm will be there.
Will be left behind. Examples?
Pea and groundnut.
Okay. And then we learned about perisperm. What is meant by perisperm, Vidur?
The seeds whose remnants of nucellus are persistent.
Louder?
The seeds, in some seeds, the remnants of nucellus are persistent. It's called perisperm.
Perisperm. One example? Our favorite spice? Vidur? I don't know whether it is your favorite spice.
Black pepper.
Okay. Then we learned about the advantages of seeds. Anthony will start. Where are you, Anthony? Give me two advantages, you tell me. Malavika was present, or just a minute. She was present, or is she joining now? Children, she was there? Yes. Okay. Yes, Anthony, continue.
Pollination and fertilization are independent of water. So seed formation is dependent.
More dependable. Understand the meaning. Because pollination and fertilization doesn't require water. Water is not a must. So seed formation is more reliable or more dependable. Okay. Another point, Malavika, you were there in the class or you joined now?
No,
You were there.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Second point.
They have better adaptive strategies for dispersal to new habitats and help the species to colonize in other areas.
You can tell in your own words, no problem. Okay, you need not say the same point, but you can present it in your own words. Third point, Mehek, you promised that this time, next class onwards, last class you promised, no? Yes, Mehek? Mehek is very serious.
Nothing like that.
Okay.
They have food reserves, so like the seeds are.
They have food reserves. So what is the advantage of having these food reserves?
The seeds are nourished until they are capable of doing the photosynthesis.
Are the seeds nourished or something else? We are speaking about seeds.
young seedlings
Young seedlings will be nourished till when?
until they are capable of doing photosynthesis on their own.
Yes, yes. Next point, Anna.
They have a hard coat which protects the young
Who is having hard coat?
seed,
Ah.
which protects the embryo.
Okay, good. Next point, Donna.
They generate new genetic combinations leading to variations.
Why? How come?
The products of sexual reproduction.
Since formation of seeds involve sexual reproduction, here new genetic combinations are happening and that will lead to variations. Then the last point, Nia. Naureen is not there. Yes.
Dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds are crucial for storage of seeds. It can be used as food throughout the year and also to raise crop in the next season.
Now you tell it in your own words. What did you understand from that sentence? You tell in your own words. Dehydration and dormancy. First line, let it be. No problem. So because of that, you can store
food.
You can store the seeds for a longer time, and whenever you need, you can use it as what? As food. And whenever you want to raise a plant, you can do that too. Because till then they'll be remaining in a dormant stage. So you need not learn if it is some definition and all, you will have to write as it is. But other than that, you don't have to depend upon the same sentences. You can present it in your own words without losing the gist of it. You should not, when you write it in your own words, the important terms or the meaning should not change, but it's better to remember. If you're saying it in your own words, I think you will memorize it better. But always remember to include the terms as it is, like nucellus, for that no substitute, endosperm, dormancy, dehydration, such terms and all you can use it. But other than that, you may say it in your own words. You can change the frame of the sentence anyhow, but don't try to say it as it is. Okay, children? Then about the viability we learned. What did we learn about the viability, Naureen? Viability of the seeds?
In some species, the seeds lose viability within a few months. In others, they live for several years. And
so for a seed having viability for several hundreds of years, give me an example. Lydia? Give me an example where we came to know that the plant, the viability of certain seeds can be hundreds of years.
Lupine.
Full name?
And then
full name?
Lupinus articus.
From where did we excavate it out?
The Arctic
Tundra.
region.
And what happened after that? How long it was remaining dormant?
Hundreds of years.
Hundreds means specify. They have mentioned the years. How many years? Somebody help her? Somebody help her. Nobody is there to help you, Lydia. 10,000 years. It was remaining dormant for more than 10,000 years. And still they could germinate and produce flowers. Okay. Another example for a seed which was remaining dormant for 2000 years, and upon excavation they were remaining viable. Even after 2000 years, they remained viable. About which seed I am speaking about? Michael? Tell me, the seeds belong to which plant? Where are you, Michael? Michael is not here. Ah, yes. Common name you remember of that plant? Common name? The fruits of that you take for enriching your body, blood with iron. No. Starting with a D. Who can help? Nobody is remembering. Rijas?
Date palm.
Date palm. Michael, date palm. What is its scientific name? Starts with the name of a bird. A bird that came out from the ashes. What was that, Michael?
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Second part. Malavika? Phoenix?
Phoenix dactylifera.
Phoenix dactylifera or date palm, a variety of date palm, and it was remaining dormant. It was lying dormant for almost 2000 years. From where it was excavated? Nandana, from where it was excavated out?
King Herod's palace near
Near
the Dead Sea.
Dead Sea. Okay, we'll wind up. No doubts, no?
No, ma'am.
So those terms, scientific names and all, you should learn as it is. And children, whenever you write the scientific name, you should underline it separately. Otherwise, you will lose mark. So from the beginning, if you have a practice of writing like that, you will not forget. Scientific name, you have to write these species and genus name separately. And only the first letter of the genus name will be in capital. All other alphabets will be in small letter. Okay. So thank you, children. We'll wind up.
Thank you.
See you next class.